you hadn't noticed, real estate is all the rage right now. So that being said, how much of a house can you actually afford? Well, the Federal Reserve Chairman Powell has been manipulating the markets for years to come and years, and one beneficiary of that has been the mortgage market. The result of this manipulation has been that the average person can now afford, in some cases, twice the price of their previous home. Wow, right? Simply because mortgage interest is half of what they currently are paying. And home prices have gone up a whopping 48%, almost 50%. That's huge in the last decade, giving sellers big profits as they sell one house to put into the new home. Now, I know some of you are thinking, wow, the real estate market is definitely headed for a crash, right, Dave? Oh, my answer is no. I don't mean that real estate won't fluctuate, it always does, but we have a very unique situation here. As long as mortgage rates stay low, and I believe we'll continue to see current and new homeowners buy homes in numbers that we haven't seen in years. Will this eventually end? Of course it will. There's always an end to a cycle. But as mortgage rates rise, fewer people will be able to move into those new homes as they become more costly. But right now we're currently in a Goldilocks situation, not too hot, not too cold, with a year of recession combined with a personal savings rate that's at a 15-year high. Get this, that's right. People have been literally saved 1.8 trillion. I don't have enough fingers for that. More than they would have without the pandemic as they've paid down their debt, their loans, and their other bills. And that money has put people into an economically stronger position than they ever were in before. And that money is going to be invested or spent or put back into the economy one way or the other. Beanie Babies, knives, new home, you name it. Currently, people are using cheap interest rates to buy that first home or perhaps move into a new home or buy a rental property. You know, maybe they decide, well, you know what, heck, I'm going to open an equity line of credit and renovate my existing home. Many people are deciding, you see, to keep their current home and their neighbors who they actually do like. They found out in the pandemic they have neighbors and they like them. Gut their house for a full redo. And in turn, as more home valuations are completed and neighborhood comps will go up, and so the next house to hit the market in that neighborhood will be now listed at a greater price. So don't forget that people were saving money because now they literally had nowhere to go last year. This year's a little different. And employers sent them home for a year, if not longer. And this resulted in a huge number of folks leaving city life per se because they couldn't actually live city life and no longer to pay city prices. So they're moving to the suburbs, farms, you name it, and demand is increasing. So when will this stop? Well, at some point, people will certainly, maybe a next generation, return to the cities. The next generation goes and they want the city life and they can enjoy it and they want all the city has to offer. And moving up the social economic ladder happens more quickly in cities than small towns. Home prices could slow, and most likely as the Federal Reserve raises rates or the lending market actually tightens their credit portfolios to avoid crises like 2009 when gypsies making $30,000 were given million-dollar interest-only houses. Loans. How did that happen? Or the third thing that could slow or derail the real estate market is that ugly word, inflation with a capital I. When suddenly the same money that you've been spending on your home and its associated bills becomes prohibitively more expensive. Remember, it wasn't that many years ago when gas prices were so high that I had people that were buying motorcycles to get from point A to point B because it was cheaper to do that with gas prices. And of course, we've recently seen energy and oil prices increase. Eventually, these increases from the supply chain will make their way to consumers. But does this mean that we need to have a true real estate crash? It's still, folks, about location, and buying something that someone else will actually want when it's time to sell, regardless of what the economy is like. Even if you do overpay in the right neighborhood, you may just have to stay in that house a little longer to make it work. Times like these are also when we hear many questions from clients and they're asking, should I take out a 15 or a 30-year mortgage? Well, typically our advice has been to borrow for as long as you can, think 30 years, especially at these very, very low rates, and use the rest to pay down other debts or invest. You don't necessarily make money. Keep in mind that you don't make money by paying off your house per se. You make money only through your house appreciating when you sell it to somebody else. Now, I know many of you who simply can't live with a mortgage. It just isn't in your DNA. Even though you know my math is right, For you, despite the recession, you will take out a 30-year mortgage and then make extra payments to try to pay it down faster and not tell us. Feel free to ask us to do the math for you, but for you folks that are paying extra payments, you actually might be better off paying that and taking out that 15-year mortgage, as it could simply be the difference in the cost of the extra price you're paying on your house. Well, it's not the optimal situation. I do understand it's your money and you got to do what helps you sleep at night. However, if you're not following the advice to borrow for the longer and you put the savings to work for you elsewhere, please do let us know. That way we can be intentional in the plan that we put in place for you and yours, and perhaps recommend that shorter mortgage. We understand that some decisions that should be made based upon the math end up being based on emotions. I totally get it. And we know money and debt are often emotional subjects. So just be upfront with us, as you can expect us to be with you. So if you're considering buying a new home or have any questions on refinancing, please don't hesitate to call. We're here to help.